This is why y'all need to start running now. And yeah, I guess you can say I'm creating a sense of urgency, whatever you want to call it. As a personal trainer with a master's in sports science, I want to share my experience having ran for 7 months now. And I say having ran for 7 months. What I mean by that is focusing on running. I've ran my whole life, technically speaking, because I grew up playing sports. I played football, basketball, a lot of other sports that require you to run. However, running is its own discipline. And from my experience, why I think should be a sense of urgency for y'all to run right now is because it's different from every other sport. So I've played so many different sports, and obviously there's a benefit to any sport you can do. And exercise, no matter what exercise it may be, is always going to be good. And before I get into the whole why running is good for you and why I highly recommend y'all should start now, weight training is also very important. And no other sport really covers resistance training enough. So I highly recommend weight training as well, and that's a separate topic for another time, and I'm happy to share my experience there. But why do I recommend running so much? And honestly, if I were to recommend any sport to anyone, I would probably go with running first. Sorry, something just went on my screen. And a big reason why I think running is so good is because out of all sports, I find that runners have probably the least amount of ego. And why is this the first thing I'm going to start with? Well, what's really important about doing sports and doing exercise with people that don't have much of an ego, it allows you to truly be who you are. You don't have to behave a certain way. You feel comfortable running with people because the goal is never to outdo each other. Even though I have heard some run clubs do have people like that, but if you're in a healthy one and you run with healthy people who don't have an ego, you are going to want to run with these people. What I find is a big problem across those who run at run clubs that are a little more toxic is drama obviously ensues. You're less likely to want to go and turn up and show up because you might fear that other people might laugh at you or belittle you. And that's not what sport is for 99% of people. Most people just want to get a bit of exercise in, be healthy, and have a good time. And actually, I'm totally digressing here, but a big factor into why people remain or are happy, the main factor, according to research, is actually due to relationships and having positive relationships with people that are close to you. Not exercise, funnily enough. Obviously, exercise, sleep, these things are really important, working out, etc., but relationships and having positive relationships is highly associated with longevity and higher quality of life. Now, obviously, exercise comes pretty much directly after that, and having good cardiovascular health as well as muscle mass, lean tissue will improve your quality of life as well as how long you live. But why not do both of those things in tandem? And what I've noticed with people is when you exercise with a group, you are more likely to have fun, assuming that you have a positive relationship with these people in the group. You're more likely to improve. And that's why a lot of high level and elite level runners will actually run in groups. And you'll notice a lot of professional runners will say running with other people pushes them further, pushes them to be better. And I've noticed that myself as well. When I have very long runs, it's a massive slog to go on by myself. But when I do it with a friend or a couple of friends, it just feels that much easier. And on top of that, afterwards, you just have such a good time chatting. You know, you share the endorphins, you share wisdom, knowledge, experiences together, and you end up being happier. And honestly, that's the most important thing for most people when it comes to exercise. Most people are never, no, sorry, not most. Most if not all, no, sorry, totally wording it wrong. The majority of runners will never win something. That's just the hard fact, because number one, there's a lot of runners in this world. It's a very competitive sport. And if you're not genetically blessed for running, you're unlikely to ever win. And if anything, that's very liberating and that's amazing. I grew up playing sports where you get pitted against another team, or you get pitted against another person, and you can win. And when this happens, competitiveness, ego, these things start to come out. And as much as I love martial arts and love competing, it definitely bogged me down. I was constantly thinking, I'm not good enough. I need to be better. I need to do this better. And I've noticed with running, I don't feel that way. Sure, I do want to get better, and I do have PBs that I want to hit, but it's all pitted against myself, because I know at the end of the day, I'm never going to be an elite level runner. And it's liberating. I just know I need to beat myself, and that's all that matters. Whereas, and this is where I think Hyrox can be an issue for some people, because it's starting to give a lot of people an ego. And when there's ego, usually toxicity follows. And I'm not just pinpointing this at Hyrox, but I'm pinpointing it at my own sport too. The sport that I absolutely loved for the last 6 years, which was martial arts, right? Mixed MMA definitely gives people an ego. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. Yeah, everyone's always, it's a big dick measuring contest. And that's what you need in a very competitive sport. And maybe running at a very, very high and elite level, there is that. I don't know, I'll never will. And that's great. But for most of us who join a run club, we're just there for the vibes. We're there to get our exercise in. For most people, running 2 or 3 times a week for 50 minutes or longer, that's already going to cover your cardiovascular needs. The World Health Organization recommends 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardio a week. So if you're doing that 3 days a week, you're already covered. And I've noticed a lot of people have a blast in their run clubs. They have a great time. They meet new people. Some people even manage to find their spouses there. It's awesome to see. And that's why I think anyone who's considering running should start now. And I've just covered the social aspect of running. Let's talk about the mental and physical benefits of it too. No? Sorry, before I go into that, I just wanted to finish off the Hyrox thing. I think the problem with Hyrox now is, well, it's not a problem because they're doing very well and there's getting a lot more people into running, exercising, etc. So I think that's amazing. But I'm starting to see an issue where ego starts to come into play, because there's different age groups, there's different categories, single, duo, relay, there's just so many events. And it's actually winnable for even, I wouldn't say the average person, it still requires some genetics, but it's more accessible for people to podium, get a flag, win something. And in running, if you're not East African, it's very unlikely that you're going to ever podium or win a race. I think out of all elite marathoners who hit, who can run a 2:10 or below, the majority of them are African. So if you're already not born in these places and you're not from there, good luck. Whereas for Hyrox, you genuinely have a chance. If you're someone who grew up weight training and or running, you have a chance. And this whole hybrid athlete stuff, I think it's super cool, really good for health, but yeah, it's definitely created a lot of ego, which I don't think is healthy for you mentally in the long run. But anyway, I totally digressed. Let's talk about the mental and physical benefits of running and why you need to start running now. I mean, the physical is obvious. The highest predictor of longevity and improving quality of life is your VO2 max when it comes to cardiovascular improvements. And studies have shown the higher your VO2 max is, the more likely you will have a healthier life. And why is that? Well, you're decreasing your risk of cardiovascular disease, which is becoming more and more common and frequent, because a lot of people just don't do enough aerobic exercise and eat like crap. Your blood pressure rises when you eat like crap. When your poor cholesterol is bad, you start to accumulate my physiology again. I think it was atherosclerosis. I can't even pronounce it, but basically the clogging of your arteries. And that's due to eating like crap and not exercising enough. Your heart has to do more work. You're more at risk of diabetes, type 2, etc., heart attack, strokes. And that's how you end up dying. But you can actually eat like crap. But if you have really good cardio, you're gonna have better health. And yeah, I think a new study was shown that if you're someone who exercises a lot and you eat a crap diet, you can actually out-exercise the poor dietary habits that you have. Obviously, I don't recommend that, and you should be doing both in conjunction, but that's how powerful exercise is for you physically. Now, another physical aspect, which obviously ties into the mental aspect of what benefits, why running is so beneficial for you, is the increased production of what we call BDNF, which is Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not someone who knows this very well, but all you need to know is running increases that protein, and this protein does a lot of things to your brain. It maintains brain cell health, but it also can increase the amount of brain cells your brain produces, and also maintains neuroplasticity. So from my memory, it essentially improves the functioning of your brain. Why wouldn't you want that, right? And funnily enough, when I was fighting back then and training hard, my best friend said my memory was really not very good. And it was only until I started running, I quit doing martial arts. He said, wow, it's actually noticeably different how well your brain works compared to before. And yeah, my memory was very poor when I was doing martial arts. And that's by no means me saying you shouldn't learn martial arts. I think every person should, because you never know when you might need to truly have to defend yourself. But when it comes to fighting, it's really not good for your brain. But running, super good. The benefits are, rampant. Now, why I think, it's very clear now, there's a plethora of evidence, there's a plethora of reasons why you should start running today. But how do you get someone started, or how can y'all start now? Because everyone knows running is good for you, and some people will go, oh, yeah, I know running is good, but isn't the injury risk really high? And here's the thing. Running is actually not the issue when it comes to these injury risks. The issue is the person doing the running. And if you actually program correctly, if you learn to start running as a beginner properly, your risk of injury is actually very low. You just obviously have to know how to start. And this is where I would say you should find a running coach, or someone that knows, a friend who knows about running. And when I say a friend who knows about running, I don't mean he or she runs very well. Just because someone runs very well doesn't necessarily mean that they know much about running, especially for beginners, because some people are just genetically very gifted. The teacher that tried to teach you maths, but they just kept telling you, this is how you do it, and you're like, well, I don't get it. Yeah, they need to be able to explain it. And I think having a good running coach who might not be genetically as gifted will probably be your best bet, because they had to go through all the trials and tribulations to get better at running. So if you're a beginner, how would I recommend one start? If you've not got any athletic background and you've never run before or whatnot, I would start by run walking, or not even run walking actually. If you're finding even a jog difficult and it hurts the joint, especially if you're someone who's a little heavier, I would recommend going speed walking or even hill walks first. The idea is that you want to start to challenge your heart, but also your bones, to get used to the mileage, because running requires, there's quite a lot of joint stress. And if you're not used to it, that's what's going to lead to an injury. So first I would start you with, let's say, once or twice a week of walking / running. Now, if you're someone who's able to jog, then I would go right away into run walking, which is what I just meant. So here's the thing with run walking though, and here's the thing for beginners. Don't run for distance. It's very common for people to go, all right, let's do a 5K or let's do a 3K. It's an easy way to ask people to do exercise with you. But in my opinion, for most people, even elite level athletes do this, is they run for time and they run based on rate of perceived exertion. So if you're someone who has never ran before, maybe just start by running twice a week for 20 minutes. Cap it at 20 minutes and run it and do it based on rate of perceived exertion. So the most commonly used RPE scale is 1 to 10. 10 being, that was extremely exhausting, I can't do any more, that's it. 5 being, all right, that was moderately challenging. I can definitely do more, but I felt like I did some sort of exercise. You should easily be below the 5. So if you're huffing and puffing after those 20 minutes, chances are it's a bit too difficult for you at this moment in time, and I would suggest backing down. Still continue doing 20 minutes, keep the time the same, but go less intense. So run maybe for 300 meters and then stop and walk until you can catch your breath again, it doesn't feel too hard, then go run again. And just do that for 20 minutes. Why this is really important is it starts to build, number one, the habit of wanting to go, because you'll start to positively associate running with exercise. You'll positively associate going out for a run to exercise. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? But the idea is you don't want to dread going to exercise. I know a lot of people do dread it, and that's probably because they're pushing way too hard. If your goal is just to be a little healthy and look a little better, you don't really need to go super hard. Obviously in weight training it's a bit different. Physiologically speaking, that is a totally different ballgame. But for running, if you want to actually improve at it, most of your runs don't have to be above a RPE 5. Obviously, if you're looking to get really good times, you're wanting to be a very high level runner, then that's a totally different story. But for most people, if you just want to be healthier, you want to keep your weight down, you want to be healthy, most of your runs should be below an RPE 5. And just do that twice a week. Now, if you're someone who even just gets out of breath right away, start with a walk. Brisk walk, and slow it down. Brisk walk and slow it down. Gradually, you will start to want to do more. You're going to get the positive benefits from running, which is the endorphins, right? And your body will start to crave going out for exercise. And the brilliant thing is you just need to do it for time. So every week you start to add a little more time. So let's say for the first week you do 20 minutes for each session, that's a total of 40. Next week you feel good, okay, I'll add a couple more minutes, etc., etc. Don't add more than you need. A lot of people get overzealous, they love it, they enjoy the running, so then they add double the amount of work, and that's what leads to injuries. And I think the statistics shows that in 1 year, amongst all runners, 50% of them will get injured. And I'm part of this statistic too, because I couldn't help but rush myself. So now I have to force myself to dial back down. But another stat is you shouldn't really be increasing your mileage by more than 10% per week. So if let's say you run 10 kilometers this week, then you should probably only add 1 kilometer on top of that, and so and so. So yeah, take it easy. And I was listening to another podcast last week, and he was saying how you won't actually realize how much stress it's causing your body if you're adding in more mileage and too much, only maybe a couple of weeks later down the line. So I've experienced this too, where I did a double session just because it happened to coincide with my run club, and I had a long run before that. And I remember just feeling my heel flare up 2 weeks later. And I knew it was from that week. Obviously this is through experience, but for a lot of people, they might just think, oh, well, my heel flared up because of something I did yesterday. But actually, when it comes to sports, accumulative fatigue and stress is a thing as well. So you have to be wary of that. Sometimes these things only hit you 2 weeks later. I know I talked a lot, and there's a lot more things I can talk about. This video has definitely gone on for longer than I expected, and my thoughts have definitely jumped all over the place. So please comment, share your thoughts, share your questions, anything you have you want to share, your experiences, whatnot, go for it. But as for now, that's the recommendations I have, and we'll talk more about running, exercise in future videos. But for now, I hope this helps and hope this inspires y'all to get started first. Catch you on the next video. Peace.